But with me here in the studio still is Ibrahim Irbad, who is a researcher. He's been giving us an insight and understanding into the 9/11 attack. We've moved on to, you know, why we've asked the question why the military could not capture Osama bin Laden.
I think my senior colleague, doctor, mentioned that the United Nations should be equipped with the necessary tools to carry out its mandate of ensuring security in all of the world. But I think every organization has got some cornerstones within it. The US is the one propping up the United Nations. Most of the activities the United Nations carries out are funded by the United States of America. The United Nations is headquartered in US. So therefore, they have a certain leverage that other countries do not have. It is not a crime perpetrated by Americans that God has blessed them. It's not a crime. But they should be able to channel the strength God has given them to do good things rather than doing the opposite. And therefore, the UN cannot independently, without American support, function as any potent world organization. And therefore, the US is very important. It should be brought on board. But that notwithstanding, people like Kofi Annan did not have the nerve to tell the US in the face certain things they were doing wrong until when they were giving their handing over speeches. And therefore, we should find a way of kind of cajoling the United States of America to channel the strength it has in serving the bigger good of the international community than its parochial interests, just as the doctor has said.
Will that be a solution to what the world is now? You
know, I think the United States has problems with semantics. Not every animosity towards the US is coming from Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda as an Arabic word simply means a base. Wherever people sit, it's called a base. So Al-Qaeda themselves do not call themselves Al-Qaeda. Now you say Boko Haram are affiliated to Al-Qaeda. You say Al-Shabaab is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. The Islamic State of Iraq is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. The rebellion in Bali, Indonesia, is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. You saw the hostage taking that took place in Philippines yesterday. Those people are Abu Sayyaf. You say they are affiliated to Al-Qaeda. So you give Al-Qaeda a certain strong brand name that everybody wants to ascribe to. And you make it an even more formidable fighting force in the world. You should isolate the group. Treat the militants the way they are, with the names and nuances they come with, and then treat them independently rather than lumping them together and calling them Al-Qaeda. They made Osama bin Laden feel even stronger than he really was, because they felt like every militant activity in the world had inspiration from Osama bin Laden, when in fact, Osama bin Laden had no heir of most of the attacks against the United States interests in the Middle East that took place between 2001 and then 2011 when he was killed. So do not give Al-Qaeda that biting teeth to try to rally around all people around the world. And the fight against terror should not be made to look like a fight against Islam or Muslims. When a person perpetrates any felony, do not attach the person's religion to that felony. Treat the person as a criminal.
Seems to be happening?
Exactly. Most Muslims feel like they are the target. And therefore, wherever you go in the world, I have monitored the militant groups. The rhetoric they give their followers is that this is not a fight against any system in the world other than the Islamic faith. And the fact that when you take stock of all the wars that America has launched in their so-called global war on terror, most of the target groups and countries have been Muslims. So therefore, the Muslims feel like they are the target. That is why the Quran is the rallying point for all those people who are fighting against. So there should be a tweak in the methodology of the United States. Everybody shares in the plight of the US. There were people who were targeted in 2001. But not everybody shares in their methodology as a reaction to what has happened.
But does it seem the US is attacking Islam?
Personally, as someone who reaches up to the aisle, to the people on the opposite of the aisle, I don't think that the war, drafters of the United States of America are attacking Islam as a religion. But what we see on the outside, their approach shows that they have a certain penchant to attack Muslims. There are rebels all over the world. The M23 rebels, they are causing instability in Dr. Congo. And then the rebels in Liberia and all the people who are fighting everywhere in the world. Why does America not treat them with the same sledgehammer it treats rebels in the Middle East. And therefore, the approach should change. When a person commits a crime, in Virginia University, a South Korean shot down 32 people. The guy was a Christian, but we didn't ascribe his attitude or his acts to his religion. And therefore, when people carry out such attacks, they should be treated as criminals rather than ascribing their religions to...
I see. And the death of Osama bin Laden, did it automatically translate into the end of terrorism?
Symbolically, the U.S. could have capitalized upon his death. When you take away the leader of a group, you take away a very important cornerstone in that group. So what they could have done in those times was that they should have channeled their crusade towards winning over those people who felt marginalized already and were part of Al-Qaeda or Osama bin Laden's group. But unfortunately, they further angered the Muslim community in the world by saying we killed the man because we had the strength to do so, and we have dumped him into the sea.
Before we come to whether or not New York or Americans generally are safe or not after, you know, whichever move that its government took, help me understand, why does it seem as though as the rest of the world understands that groups like Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram just go out there to do all the fatal things that we know of?
You see, when you shut your doors to negotiations, it's better to jaw than war. Look, the U.S. right from day one has taken a stance against jihadists. They say they are the prime target of U.S. armory, and therefore those people do not have any trust in America being the interlocutor or an arbiter in any political problem they have in any corner of the world. Most of the battles that are being fought are not religious, they are political. Some people only feel disenfranchised. Perhaps in Somalia, the United States as a world leader can sit with the people, the powers that be in those regions, and satisfy these people. Boko Haram, for example, is saying the Muslim-dominated North should practice Sharia. What is the right way to go? Sit with the people. But if you try to kill their ideology at infancy, they also resort to a defensive mechanism, which is raising up arms against the Nigerian government. And day in and day out, it is quite irrational for anybody to target their bullets as a sanctuary or a place of worship. But because the Boko Haram were treated the way they were treated by the international community, they have resorted to thinking that the Christians are the real target and perpetrators of the crimes being perpetrated against them. And therefore, they attack Christians, innocent people who go out on Sundays to pray. And it has taken a turn for the worse. So whenever there's any militancy in any part of the world, not only the Middle East, the people who are disenfranchised, the people who are disgruntled, should be given the opportunity to also speak. Sometimes the demands of such groups are so mundane and small that you could satisfy them without even wincing.
I see.
But when you tell them that they want to take over the whole world, America thinks like if you have a single Islamic state, then it poses an existential threat to the American way of life. It's a wrong ideology. That paranoia is not helping America in the Middle East and the Muslim world generally.
Are we any safer?
Personally, I am safe, but just that when you bear a Muslim name, sometimes when you get to a place, you know, eyebrows get raised, and when you try to travel, you are subjected to more scrutiny than the average passenger who is not a Muslim. An impression has been created like every Muslim is a potential suicide bomber, but that is not the case. The people who are fighting the current world system are a fringe group that make up less than 0.2% of the world's 1.7 billion Muslims. And therefore, these are very few people. And the U.S. cannot fight the war alone. It should seek the support of Muslims, people who share the same faith with such people. And America should be a righteous military in the Middle East, because for as long as they continue to cause collateral damage in the deaths of women and children, this will give the jihadists a propaganda bonanza to rally people around them. And this fight, so-called fight against global jihad, may last for over 50 years if the right methodology is not adopted.
Over the program, we've tried to understand what happened on 9/11 and afterwards, you know, the attacks back and forth. But how is that different from what we have in the Syrian case? Or how could, you know, America's attack Bashar al-Assad be different from, you know, what happened, the ripple effect of Al-Qaeda in Iraq?
In the case of Bashar al-Assad, if he's attacked, the attack will not be as easy as we found in the case of Afghanistan, because the only state that stood behind the Taliban when the Americans attacked in 2001 was only Pakistan. And to a certain extent, in terms of political rhetoric, the Saudi government also supported them. And in Iraq, look, Saddam Hussein, before the launch of the attacks in March 2003, was considered a pariah person in the Middle East, and therefore nobody supported him. But unlike Bashar al-Assad, who has got the support of Hezbollah in Lebanon, the support of Iran, the support of the Russians, who are also equally close to being on a par with the United States of America, there is no easy way out of the current crisis. And inaction will cost the world more in the long term than taking an action right now.
Which is what many have said Obama seems to be doing?
You see, look, the current discussion about securing Bashar al-Assad's chemical weapons was not even part of the body of speech John Kerry was to give on Monday. It was during a Q&A session that a reporter asked him what was the way to avert America's intended military strike against Syria. Then he told them if the Syrian government was able to put a cache of chemical weapons under international control, then that would avert the strike. And Sergei Lavrov, who is the foreign minister for Russia, also immediately issued a statement that the Russians would speak to the Syrian government. And their foreign minister, Walid Muallim, came immediately after that and said they would give it a consideration. So now they are saying the Syrian government should surrender all of its chemical weapons, which are up to 1,000 metric tons. They have the largest arsenal of chemical weapons in the whole of the Middle East. But the process is Herculean. You don't just pick a chemical weapon and dump it into the sea, and that is the end of the case.
Are we running out of time in that issue?
And yes, we are, because the deproliferation of the chemical weapons could take close to a decade. Yes, please. So it's a long process. It's quite Herculean. It will give Assad the opportunity to buy more time. But in the meantime, the international community is okaying Bashar's use of conventional weapons to kill women and children. And therefore, chemical weapons should not serve as any deterrence against the United States from taking an action that will stem the current bloodshed, which in my assessment is irrational, and the international community should do something about now rather than later.
Unfortunately, we'll have to end it here. This is all time would allow. Thank you very much, Ibrahim.
You're welcome.
Ibrahim Irbad is a researcher in Middle Eastern culture, and he joined us with an understanding of, you know, effects of 9/11, events that rolled out afterwards. Thank you very much for your company. My name is Kimini Nyamani Amano. CNBC's Power Lunch is next.